The Dreamcast is a system I didn't have the pleasure of even touching until the winter of 2010. There were so many untouched classics I couldn't wait to get my hands on. However, most people don't have a Dreamcast, only 10.6 million were ever sold. Thankfully, Dreamcast titles are being released on PSN and Xbox Live Arcade, so everyone who missed out can now play a selection of Dreamcast games on their much more available and newer consoles. Sonic Adventure is one of those games. It was also released on the Dreamcast Collection, a compilation for the 360 consisting of Sega Bass Fishing, Space Channel 5 Part 2, Crazy Taxi, and of course, Sonic Adventure. While earlier Sonic titles are definitely nostalgic for me, I've never played Sonic's first full attempt at gaming in 3 dimensions. So it's high time I played this game and treated it to a non-nostalgic review. For those that need a refresher and a non-nostalgic review, I review classic games that are now available for download that I have absolutely no past experience with, to find out if they have passed the test of time. Sonic Adventure received good reviews upon its release, but is it still a fulfilling experience over 10 years later? Well, let's start the game and find out. Takes just a couple of seconds to become absolutely confused. Okay, so the city is filling with water. What does this have to do with Sonic? Ah, there he is. The intro video to this game shows off the Dreamcast prowess and Sonic's transformation from a chubby big-headed hoglet into a lean, long-legged hedgehog. Of course, throughout the game series, Sonic doesn't age and has always been 15. Or 16 according to the comics, where we also discover his name is actually something Maurice Hedgehog. Sonic is his nickname, and his first name is just far too embarrassing. In Sonic Adventure you have a choice of 6 characters, but in the beginning you may only choose Sonic. Unlike previous Sonic titles, this one largely takes place in a city, or at least a small section of a city called Station Square. You never get to see more than this one little nook. To start off, we find Sonic playing Spider-Man and talking to himself.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
When police cars come barreling around the corner. The cops' guns are powerless against some strange entity, so Sonic intervenes to save the day. I found the beginning of this game to be very disorienting. Firstly, because I just didn't expect it to take place in a city with police officers and guns. Secondly, because the camera angles take some getting used to. While you will learn to deal with the quirkiness of the camera, it is an indirect enemy in this game that will cost you lives. As is expected in early excursions into the 3rd dimension, often it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get the camera at an angle that is helpful. The camera gets stuck behind walls, doesn't cooperate in small areas, and is consistently extremely awkward. Then there are those times when the camera outright kills you. It just lets you fall right off the map. This could be blamed on plain old glitchiness, but I like to think of it as the camera giving up. The game is separated into action stages and adventure fields. You can travel the adventure field without fear of encountering enemies, but you will have to find new paths in order to enter action stages, where the action happens. Sonic can jump and spin dash just like the 2D titles, but the spin dash isn't as useful anymore as it's harder to control his direction in a 3D playing field. When you press the jump button again when Sonic is in the air, he'll be propelled directly toward an enemy. The homing attack is a blessing since aiming the jump can be difficult, and it can be used to hit multiple enemies in succession. Eventually you'll learn the light speed dash. Yep, he says that every time. Only then will he follow a line of rings. Sonic's action stages are straight up platforming, so all you'll need to do is destroy some enemies and get to the end of the level. Occasionally you'll get a break from all that running around to go snowboarding or play bumper cars. There are also some flying and shooting levels, but I had difficulty with the aiming. Thankfully, it wasn't hard to dodge. Tails can fly just like the old games, but he can do a Tails attack in this game, and once you find the upgrade he can twirl forever, without getting dizzy. Almost every action stage in the Tails story is a race against Sonic or Robotnik to get to the end first, and they're all incredibly easy. Even when I got stuck at one part, I could still make it to the end first. Oh, and Sonic cheers you on the whole time.
Hey, hey, hey! Hey, Tails! All right, Tails!
They must have just been really excited to have Sonic talking in a console game. Amy attacks with her Pico Pico hammer, and with it she can learn the spin hammer attack. I didn't find this ability to be very useful though. You need to rotate the analog stick to make her spin, and she can't keep spinning forever like Tails. Amy's action stages comprise of running from Robotnik's Zero Robot. If she gets caught, it's over. Of course, after you complete a level, she might just get caught by the robot anyway. Do you think they made Amy turn cranks on purpose? When you play as Big the Cat, your one objective is to reacquire your frog buddy, who ate a part of Chaos and grew a tail. His weapon is a fishing rod, and more often than not, you're going to use it for fishing. You throw the line into the water, wiggle around the bait until something latches on, then try to reel it in without using too much force, because Big will get tired. You can catch the fish, but you're going to want to catch a frog in order to finish the level. If you're like me, you'll just zoom through Big's portion of the game. It's kinda boring. Gamma's story was fun. He has homing missiles. Just lock onto your targets and go. Once you find the jet booster, Gamma can also hover. Or fall slower. Gamma's levels have a time limit, but you can increase your allotted time by destroying enemies. Other than that, his action stages are straightforward. Get to the end. Knuckles is by far the most fun player to use. He can glide, climb walls, punch, run really fast, and eventually he can dig. It would have been better if his action stages were more like Sonic's though. Instead, when you play as Knuckles, you end up traversing a more open map, locating emerald shards using a radar. It seems like such a waste. Of course, this is a Sonic game, so you can find power-ups in the form of high-speed shoes, invincibility, a regular shield and magnetic shield, and extra lives. For the most part, I found boss battles to be confusing yet bizarrely easy. Many were very straightforward and followed the Sonic tradition of avoiding attacks until a weak spot is exposed. Others, let's just say, even when I didn't completely understand what I was doing, I could still beat the boss. One of the most annoying aspects of the controls is that you use the same button for talking to people as you do to dash. So you'll find yourself uncontrollably dashing around people until you get a hang of the exact positioning you need to engage in conversation. Not that you really need to engage in conversation at all. You can hardly ever depend on dialogue to gain instruction or direction in this game. And what you're supposed to do next is not always transparent, which is probably why there's hint orbs everywhere. Throughout the game, mysterious statues appear that open up paths that were once closed to you. No explanation is given. Similarly, once you need access to the business building, an ID card surreptitiously falls onto the grass. The story mostly proceeds because of the idiocy of the characters. Once again, Robotnik is collecting the Chaos Emeralds. This time he's regenerating a monster, aptly named Chaos, to destroy not the world, but Station Square, so Robotnik can recreate it as Robotnik Land. So of course, Tails and Sonic collect the Chaos Emeralds, then Dr. Robotnik steals them, and throughout the game you'll have to fight more advanced forms of Chaos. Meanwhile, Knuckles is trying to restore the Master Emerald, which was shattered upon Dr. Robotnik summoning Chaos. Oddly enough, the Master Emerald seems fully intact to other characters, even though the stories are supposed to be simultaneous. Amy's goal is to protect a bird from Dr. Robotnik. Gamma seeks to save his robot friends by, killing them. And lastly, Big wants his best friend back. A frog that he catches many times but then inexplicably escapes from his grasp each and every time until the very last event. Every character experiences a very short time-traveling hallucination that gives insight into the history of Tikal, an Echidna girl whose father sought to overtake and harness the powers of the Master Emerald. These visions eventually lend insight into the origins of Chaos and why Knuckles guards the Master Emerald. After playing each character's story, I'm positive that each character is trying to portray themselves as the most strong and influential character in the story, or maybe each story takes place in a different dimension. For instance, in Sonic's story, you have to defeat Knuckles over a misunderstanding. In Tails' story, he beats up Knuckles instead, and Sonic is nowhere to be seen. In Knuckles' story, he beats up Sonic in this altercation. The same goes for battles with Chaos. Each character defeats different forms of the monster in his own story, even if the form was defeated by a different character in another story. So even though the storylines are entwined, they are in no way congruent. I played as Gamma before I played as Knuckles, so when I got to the part of the game where previously Sonic had beaten up Gamma, I thought I was supposed to lose the fight. But the most annoying part of the whole story is when Gamma is supposed to take the bird from Amy. Why doesn't he just take it? She's in a cell and he's a powerful robot. Instead they talk about it. Then he gets hypnotized by the bird or something.
Get going.
Anyway, this is the first Sonic game released to Western audiences to refer to Dr. Robotnik as Eggman. Of course, Eggman is the name he was originally intended to have and what he was always referred to as in Japan. The name Eggman was dropped in other nations because of the complications arising from the use of the name in a Beatles song. I guess in order to introduce the name Eggman to a new audience, it was used as a childish taunt rather than outright changing his name.
Look, it's a giant talking egg.
Silence! I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest scientific genius in the world!
Whatever you say, Eggman.
Both names are used interchangeably in the game, but his name is Dr. Robotnik in the manual, so this game didn't really change his name for Western audiences. Sonic and his friends are just bullies. As far as the voice acting goes, there are some very awkward moments in this game, especially during conversations.
Knuckles, don't tell me Eggman tricked you again.
Me? What about you?
Way to go, Knucklehead.
Now I have 4 lovely emeralds! Chaos!
Not only are the lines awkwardly paced and discontinuous, the lip syncing is pretty terrible as well. Other times their lines are just inconsequential.
I forgot something.
What's that?
There's no landing gear in this mode.
What?
But they land perfectly anyway. The Chao are another very different aspect to this game. They are creatures that live in the Chao garden, hatch from an egg, and then you raise, feed, breed, and race them. But wait a second. So in this game we have characters named Chao, and we have emeralds and a water spirit named Chaos. Not KO and Chaos, and not Chao and Chaos, but Chao and Chaos. Did anyone stop to think that this may be a bit confusing? You don't even know how to say Chao until Takal says it in a cutscene. I was calling them KO up until that point. There are different ways to help your Chao gain abilities, and when you play the game on the Dreamcast, you can load your Chao onto your VMU and take it for walks. And they really do just walk for a really long time. Obviously, there is a lot to complain about in this game. The camera, inconsistent stories, unenjoyable characters and levels, horrible dialogue, and it is pretty darn easy. But it did have some amazing graphics for its time, and is actually quite fun to play. It might not sound it, but I enjoyed playing the game, especially the Sonic levels. It truly is a 3D Sonic game. The imagery and level designs are all reminiscent of the Genesis games. Sometimes you just get to sit back and let Sonic zoom around, just like old times, but in 3D. It's unfortunate that the PSN and Xbox Live versions have neglected to include most of the fun Easter eggs from the Dreamcast version. On the Dreamcast, a second player can play as Tails when he accompanies Sonic in an action stage, just like the earlier Sonic games. If you put the CD in your computer, you'll find a folder containing a collection of background images. Ah, look at Sonic in the Santa hat! Another tidbit exclusive to Dreamcast players is the Chao puzzle minigame. If you plug in a third controller with a VMU inserted, once you're in adventure mode with any character, you can press start on the third controller and play a puzzle game. It's absurdly simple. There are 15 3x3 slide puzzles, and upon completing 5 levels you get a cute congratulatory screen. And if you purchase the $5 upgrade and transform your copy of Sonic Adventure into Sonic Adventure DX, you will also miss out on the unlockable Game Gear games that were available on the GameCube version. But would I recommend this game to someone else who has never played it before and doesn't feel that warm, tingly feeling inside when they think of Sonic Adventure? Sonic fans should definitely check out this game if they want to experience a 3D Sonic game. Everyone else should pass on this title. I'm sure that if I wasn't already a fan of Sonic, I wouldn't have enjoyed this game as much. The flaws would have been too unbearable if this was just some other nameless Joe. But since I love the Genesis games, I love seeing a 3D Sonic in a 3D Sonic world. So maybe this review turned out to be not so non-nostalgic after all. Oops! Happy gaming!
Here I come, rougher than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather. You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles. I'm hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell. I break them down whether they solid or frail. Unlike the rest, I'm independent since my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left.
Born on an island